think deep down, all of us want to be brave people. I mean, none of us really want to be labeled as cowards. I mean, I think we'd much rather would prefer to be labeled or known as being brave. And the interesting thing about being brave is not that we don't have fear. It's that whatever we're afraid of, we don't allow to control us. If we're brave people, not cowardly people, then we don't necessarily run away from fear, but if it's necessary, we'll step into the fear. And we all have different fears. There are some things that are fairly universal, like it's fairly universal fear of public speaking. But here's the thing. I'm not personally afraid of that. I do it all the time. Like honestly, it's easier for me to stand on a stage in an arena with 10,000 people than it is for me to make a phone call. I don't know why. I know I'm weird and unusual, but someone might think, well, you're really brave for stepping onto that stage and speaking in front of all those people. And I would say, no, that's not being brave. It takes more bravery for me to pick up the phone and make a phone call to someone. I don't know why, it's just how it is. And so we all have different fears, and to not be cowards, but to be brave means that whatever fear there is, we don't just simply ignore it or pretend like it doesn't exist. Rather, we can name them and say, okay, here's a fear, and here's the time when it's important for me to step into that fear. Another very common fear that's not necessarily universal, but very common, is a fear regarding money, a scarcity mindset, a fear that there's not going to be enough. And with that comes a fear of giving, of trusting God. So we hear things like the tithe, 10%, and it triggers all kinds of fear inside of us because we look at the numbers and we go, well, the numbers don't add up. And if I was to do that, that would be a terrifying thing. Well, you're not alone in that. That's a fear I've personally experienced. I've looked at the numbers and added them up and said, that doesn't work. Now, I didn't want to say it out loud because I was afraid. I was afraid about what others might think, or even about just labeling it and saying this is what it is and identifying it. And so I allowed that fear to control me. And in that sense, I was cowardly. And I regret that. I've never regretted a time where I was brave. But I've regretted lots of times where I was a coward. And what really happened there was I had a lordship issue. There was a fear that was controlling me, and that fear had become my Lord. And I was listening to the numbers instead of my God. I was allowing that fear to dictate my actions, or in that case, lack of action, as opposed to saying, okay, yes, I am fearful of this, but God, I choose to trust you and to do something that was very brave. And so, now for us and our family, to tithe is not something that really requires a lot of bravery. But there's new fears. There's new things that we step into. We continue to do that, but we also ask God, okay, God, what do you have next for us? And so whatever it is in your journey with Jesus, whatever next step of faith he's calling you to make, don't allow the fear to control you. Name it. Identify it. Lift it up to him. And then take that next step of faith. And in regards to giving, go for it. Give. Trust God. Let him be Lord. It may be your next big, brave move. But what a wonderful thing to do. So let's go, church. Let's take our next step of faith, and let's be brave as we follow Jesus.